Hello and welcome to the first youth panel of today. My name is Sally. I am the co-founder of Lulu Lab, an edtech game company. And I'm gonna guide you through this first panel. Today we have the panelists Joshua, Fatma, and we have some. All right. Today we welcome panelists Joshua, Fatma, Jatsu, and Fabio. And we're going to discuss the topics entrepreneurship and how Gen Z looks at the future of work. And then we're also going to touch upon a more soft topic, which is mental health. And before we dive into these topics, I would like to ask the panelists to do a quick intro of yourselves. Let's start with Joshua.
Well, my name is Joshua Redmond. I'm a graduate of media communications. I'm currently working in the fields of communications and marketing, and I'm pursuing entrepreneurial initiatives from Kenya and Germany. Well, from Kenya into Germany, yeah.
And my name is Fabio Pascal Permana. People usually call me either Fabio or Pascal. And I'm currently doing an apprenticeship in a company called SingPower. It's a hot dip galvanizing company, and I'm studying as a surface coating technician.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mi Jiaxuan from China. I'm doing a traineeship at UNESCO-UNEVOC Network Secretariat and Technical Cooperation Unit. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I am Fatima Jabin, an economics student at the University of Bonn with a passion for technical and vocational education and training. I've pursued various TVET projects and jobs in Bangladesh, Sudan, and in Germany, also with the German Development Corporation, or GIZ.
Thank you, all of you. So let's start with reflecting on future of work based on the morning session from today. Canis, I know that you have unique perspective on young people's opportunities and challenges in acquiring skills from both Bangladesh, Zambia, Saudi Arabia, and Germany. So what stood out for you from today's session?
So I think one of the catalysts of economic growth in Germany and across the world is vocational education, specifically in Germany, the dual vocational system. And I think this has been wonderfully highlighted in today's discussion this morning, because we need to see that we combine theory with practice in everything that we do in order to really enhance our understanding, in order to drive sustainable economic growth. And I think also personally, having grown up in Germany as well as abroad, there was always a deep respect in myself for vocational training, because I was able to witness that in other countries, many people, many young people right after school had to go to university, had to pursue an academic degree. That was their only option, whereas in Germany we had various options and still continue to have various options. And that's, I think, what gave me a deep appreciation for this.
Thank you for sharing. Fabio, I know you also have some experience from both Indonesia and Germany. What were your key takeaways from this morning session?
Well, what I find interesting is in Germany, there's a lot of diverse background of people. And me personally, I came from a Chinese Indonesian parent, and the other one is also Chinese Indonesian and German as well. So I have like a deep-rooted background here in Indonesia and in Germany as well. And I think, like, for example, for vocational education in Indonesia is already there, but it's not as good or maybe as powerful like in Germany, because it's really, really in the system of German economics. And when I went to Germany, I didn't really have any plan at all. But when I heard from my dad that there's an Ausbildung program or an apprenticeship, I just jumped to that idea. Then I'll just do it. It sounds fun. And then now I'm already at my third year. I'm going to finish it next year, hopefully. But I mean, it's really nice because I met a lot of people and I gained a lot of experience from both sides of the education, from practically doing it and then studying the theory of it. And that's why I find it is important for the young people as well, that they are more alternatives rather than going to university. And for me, if you don't want to go to university, maybe just try another form, an alternative. That's basically for me.
Thank you for sharing. I think also the word fun is very important to remember when acquiring skills. It has to be fun, and it most often is when you find the right match. Jiatsu, we have a very international table today. You have experience from both China and Switzerland, and perspectives from working in different organizations. What stood out for you from today's session?
Well, today's morning session is really impressive for me. In terms of my experience in China and Switzerland, I feel like green skills is really having a huge demand in the job markets. As in many countries, the national policies, they are setting up so many targets for reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in the close future. So I think Gen Z will definitely make up a sizable portion of the global workforce in the near future, especially in the greening job markets, right? But as mentioned in this morning's session, only 1 out of 20 people has at least one green skills. So which shows that there's still huge gap of the skills gap and as well as awareness gap. So I'm thinking of how should we deal with the problem. I think no matter for companies or training institutions, they really should deliver the young people the tailored and specific program trainings, and to put them in the spot that they have the expertise and skills to which allow them to hit the positions. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Joshua, do you want to share a bit about your key takeaways from the morning session?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So the key takeaway for me, and I feel like the key takeaway which I've gotten from my three colleagues here discussing and introducing themselves, was adding value to a situation or to your economy. And Germany has done a very good job of doing that through the Ausbildungssystem, because they meet the demands of the German market and of the German people, as well as the global market and the global people. And I feel like a lot of countries in my situation, at least the global south, that's the one thing that we've failed to do, is to create a demanding market for our domestic economies and add value for dependent people. An example, a population which is now being taken over by the Gen Z, a lot of young people, and those are the future of the economy. And I strongly believe that if you teach people how to be sustainable jobs, protecting safari conservation, water life conservation, coral reefs, even building of roads, traffic systems, very little things that make such big differences to everyone's day-to-day life. I feel like there's a lot of pride and there should be a lot of respect in developing those things and wanting to create an initiative to add value to your economy. And Germany has done a brilliant job of doing that. You have a lot of landscapers here, you have a lot of builders, you have a lot of things that on the global market you can't really get by with easily. But on a domestic level, you can. And it also encourages people to stay at home, invest in their home, and also attract investments from outside. So this can not bring anything else but positive development for any country that uses that strategy, I believe. Yeah.
Very interesting comparison with the Germany and Kenya, and I definitely think it's a good point to show that there's a lot of pride in these areas as well. What about yourselves? Are you thinking of reskilling or upskilling to prepare yourselves for the future of work?
Yes, it's already been planned, me and a few other people. One of them is my dad as well, and my mom as well, that I'm planning to upskill myself. For example, I'm doing with my Ausbildung is basically the technical side, but I also want to learn the management side, how to deal with if something's broken, how to repair it, or maybe how to deal with people, connect with other people and such. And that's why my vision is to go to another country, another continent, just to learn how they do it there. Because if I gain like experience from those countries, I think it will be really, really good and really beneficial for me. If my plan is, I want to go back to Indonesia, because I find it Indonesia is not as good in Germany. So that's why I want to try to make it better in Indonesia, my home country. And because I'm quite proudful of my country, both country, from Germany and Indonesia as well. So I try to make a nice balance between both of the countries, with all the skills that I gained during my studies, and also during, if I'm conversing with someone else, gaining experience, or maybe just talking to other people.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to share?
I've actually also pursued some upskilling courses, specifically in ERP systems. And this just comes back to what I was speaking about of things being so accessible in more developed economies. I've been pursuing an SAP course at a public German university besides my studies as an economist. And I think it's been absolutely enriching because I get to see the technical side of applying business know-how, and I can definitely use that for future employment. And it's done really, really effectively and at a reduced cost for students. So it's absolutely amazing that I've had the opportunity to pursue this.
And how do you find these courses? And how do you know which courses to choose?
Well, they are actually heavily advertised oftentimes, so information has become so accessible nowadays. We do not have to be in one location in order to pursue the opportunities of that location. There are various websites, various videos on different platforms that enable Gen Z to gather that information, to extract that information, and to upskill and reskill themselves. And I think we have a huge advantage in comparison to the generations before us in that regard.
Good point. Thank you for sharing. I think we can jump to the next topic, which is entrepreneurship. And that's a topic I'm very passionate about. As an entrepreneur myself, I also built a company 7 years ago. We were very young, and I remember it as being a lot of hard work for us to convince or to sell to our clients and partners back then. Because we were very young, we really had to show them we're serious about this. So I'm curious, Joshua, I know you have some experience in entrepreneurship. Do you want to tell us a bit about your journey?
Well, my journey at the moment is still very stagnant. Unfortunately, I'm still trying to put my pieces together in terms of entrepreneurship. But it's a journey that I can only recommend everyone to at least try and see how far you can take your personal interests, your situation, and try see the world from a bigger picture. Because truly, when you see the world from a bigger picture, it's like a board game in my eyes at least, and you can put your pieces in specific places and things make sense from different perspectives. And that's what one part of a mindset of an entrepreneur, I believe, is or can contribute to your success as an entrepreneur. My personal experience, I'm taking advantage of my existential situation, which is I've grown up in Germany and I come from Kenya, and for me the market would be between Kenya and Germany, and trying to find a way to capitalize from importing and exporting commodities to and from Kenya, and hopefully creating more jobs in the process and investment in my way for my country, for my clients, the stakeholders, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Yeah.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
And for the rest of you, do you have any entrepreneurial experience or any ideas you're looking to explore, maybe within AI, new technology, green skills?
Well, I don't really have experience like you in entrepreneurship, but I feel like especially the concept of social entrepreneur is so fascinating to me because it's an enterprise that you have the purpose of promoting social impact or environmental impact. And in comparison with the no-profit organizations, you have less financial uncertainties in terms of this case. And also, I feel like it's a good way to show women leadership. Like you, if you are running enterprises, the best way to promote female to get involved in the business is to showcase a woman like you. If you can do this, and they can do this as well. This kind of mirror effects is really motivating them to get into this area. Thank you.
Role models is a big important topic for sure. Fabio, you look like someone who has something to add. Yeah.
Funny thing is, when I was younger, I went to a school that specializes in doing entrepreneurship. There's even like a topic subject doing entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, I didn't really get into it, but what I did learn from it was basically you could transform anything into everything. Maybe there's some side of a business that it's not really popular. Maybe it's niche. So me and a couple of friends, we tried to make a business, even though it didn't really work out in the end. But I mean, I learned a lot from it. And then for me, it's really important because for the next, maybe another project, if I want to make something, maybe just like a bar with AI as a staff member, for example, or maybe a bar that's very, very green, or maybe a cafe, but everything that's really important is basically find something new, find something else, gain some insight from a lot of different people, because I met a lot of people with different kind of industries. For example, there's a guy that I knew. He didn't really do anything, but what he did was he got into a niche market doing technical stuff, and during the year he don't really work at all. He just stays at home. But the thing is, he has to wait for a phone call. If there's a phone call, he has to go there and then do it. There's a really niche market, and for him, it's something entrepreneurial. And now what I see from the younger generation is between me and my friends are a lot of people. They already start do something else. For example, I have a friend that creates uh, like soap for your shoes. He create his own recipe for it, and then a lot of people that started drawing some paintings on the shoes. I think it became popular a few years ago, and when I saw it, I think, oh, it looks really cool. So I bought it, and for me, it's nice as well if I see someone else that doing something for them in something entrepreneurial, sorry, that I try to support them. I try to support their business and help them grow by just buying, or maybe just telling, oh, this is a good product to some people that maybe have the same interest as well.
Thank you for sharing. So would you say Gen Z is characterized by being very entrepreneurial?
Yes, very. The Gen Z are very into it, because I think a lot of my generation as well, our generations, we always see something in between. And maybe the older generation couldn't really see it. But now we have all the possibilities, we have all the chances, we have all the technology that could help us. We have the internet, we have ChatGPT maybe. We could just see. And my uncle told me that if you want to do something, just look up ChatGPT how to do it. It will give you all the information that you want, and it's a really good benefit from the AI, honestly. So that's why I try to use it as well for some of my ideas.
There are definitely some good AI tools out there, and maybe also can give you some ideas that you, of course, still need to test on the market, I would say. And Canis, you have something you want to add?
Yes, actually, just piggybacking off of what you've said, Pascal, I do very much agree with that. And I would also like to say that Gen Z has very different consumer behavior than the generations before us did. We're much more likely to support small and medium-sized businesses. So that's why it's also very, very important that people within our generation who understand us the best are willing to pursue entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial opportunities, because it goes hand in hand to have the skills, but also to have the ability, and I would guess the courage to launch a business, because skills alone are not going to bring you very far if there is not a sufficient job market. Sometimes, especially in developing countries, you need to create it yourself, and that's very much possible with our consumer behavior.
Okay, very inspiring. Thank you for sharing. I think in respect of time, we will jump to the last topic, which is mental health. That's a bit of a different topic, but I think that's also very important to cover for Gen Z, for everyone, and especially also when talking about ambitions and career dreams. Yes. So let's go back to talking about Gen Z. What would you say are some of the challenges that we may have seen with mental health?
I can maybe start. I think our generation is really different from our parents' generation. We we have much more stress than the last generation. We have to take care of the cost of living. We have to take care of the global issues, gender inequality, poverty, climate change, and which puts so much social pressure on us. And we bring every social pressure to the office. We expect the company to be the place that where I can get my purpose, where I can get my friendships, where I can get my community, where I can get my social life, even where I can get my therapist. So every day we brought every problems to the office. But I think the one way to figure it out is trying to promote the communication between colleagues to build a really real cultural moments between Gen Z generation, so the young people can be more involved in the community. Thank you.
That was a really nice way of putting it as well. It sounds like a big responsibility. I would also feel very stressed if I had to solve all these big problems. Joshua, when looking at Gen Z and the topic mental health, what comes to your mind?
Well, mental health is a tricky one, especially if you associate social media with it, because as my colleague just mentioned, it's very different from our parents' generation to our generation. I feel like I'm going to speak for myself because I was born in 1996. And whenever I look at young people or speak to younger family members, I always say to them, you unfortunately don't know what it's like to grow up without the distraction of capitalism, on a day-to-day basis. And it's really strange to see that people feel so mentally isolated in a time when we're actually so globally connected like never before. So there's a gray area there for sure that is growing, and it's harmful to a lot of people. And I feel like we need to identify that. I feel like a lot of people need to identify that for themselves. And we're living a time of individualism as well. Even though there's so much communication, in that communication, everyone is trying to find their own spotlight, right? In a sense, there's a lot of different ways to describe what it is they're trying to find. But it's a great area for sure that we have to all work on, and it has to start with the families as well. I feel like the dynamic of future families will definitely be different because we were exposed to such robust information at young ages throughout our lives in development stages, university, post-university, pre-university. Everyone has their own story with mental health. I associated very much to social media. Of course, everyone has their own experiences, which are traumatic, which are personal, or due to political conflicts that also cause mental health. Mental health can range from all aspects, but I feel like in this essence right now, the most influential part of that is through the exploitation of people and the misuse of entertainment on social media, fortunately.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's for sure an important conversation to have with family and also with your employer, as you mentioned. And to wrap this up, do you have you already gave some advice, you as well? Do you have some good advice or some healthy practices that you use yourself that you would like to share?
I do have some. With everything going so fast, what I usually do to myself is just slow down on everything. If you're doing work, just close your laptop, do something else. And if you have the opportunity, just go travel, meet a lot of new people, gain more experiences just by traveling outside. And that's what I tried to do last year. I tried to go traveling outside Germany, going out of my comfort zone just to see what's out there. And then from that opportunity, I could meet a lot of people. And even we were talking with a friend of mine. He told me, I find it's quite amazing that you could go anywhere and everywhere without inviting someone. Because now between a lot of people, they say, hey, if I want to go somewhere, I want to go with a friend. Do you want to go? No. If like your friend don't want to go somewhere, oh, I don't want to go alone. But what I do is I just say, I'm going to this area. at this date, if you want to come, you could join me. But if you don't, then I'll just travel alone. So basically just slow down on everything. And then just, if you have the opportunity to travel and have fun, just take it.
Yeah, and I also feel like now the working mobility is pretty high, and everybody should learn how to being alone and enjoy being alone, and sometimes going out to meet new people and get some new inspiring ideas, or listening to some meditation music is always helpful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Me. Just talking about that, we've actually been trying to make up an appointment to meet for what, like 3 months now, and we've not found the time, either of us. So that's unfortunate. But just
Here you are.
yeah, here we are. So make time for the things that are important. You will not find time, and also be kind to yourself. Be kind to your future self as well. Make sure you get things done when you need to get them done, but also be kind to yourself and take time.
My last word would be something that's always helped me. Always look for the root cause of the situation. There's a lot of miscommunication in the middle of things, but you can jump to the conclusion. Well, not jump to the conclusion. You can allow yourself to understand things better if you look at the root cause of something, because something always starts somewhere and then it develops from that point onwards. And you can do the same thing for yourself and your own problems in mental health, in life, in business, whatever it is. The root cause of the situation is literally the root. And you can change that if you want. It's up to you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience and all this good advice. I think for now, we can wrap up this first youth panel, and we will continue with the second youth panel after this short video.
As a software developer, I contribute to peace and global citizenship by leading projects that promote education and job opportunities. I foster a multicultural and inclusive work environment by collaborating with diverse teams and engaging in intercultural discussions. I advocate for ethical technology and prioritize social sustainability in our projects. By creating platforms that enhance global communication and understanding, I aim to build a more integrated and peaceful global community.
I am actively involved in a group of peer educators that are dedicated to promoting peace and global citizenship by creating awareness as well as safe zones for the LGBTQI+ community, both on campus and in the surrounding community. Our initiatives focus on fostering a multicultural understanding and an inclusive environment, enhancing societal safety and promoting social sustainability.
One path is through the promotion of peace and peace education connected to, say, Students at Risk program, which is for students like those in Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Palestine, Gaza, to minimize conflict through education, but also in awareness campaigns concerning the needs of refugees, IDPs, stateless people, and bringing attention to other vulnerable groups, such as Indigenous communities and migrant communities.
In the field of joinery, several green skills are important for addressing environmental challenges and promoting sustainability. We joiners, we develop strategies to reuse and recycle wood scraps or offcuts, such as creating small products from their offcuts or engaging with members of the community to use those offcuts as a source of energy.
The skill I have acquired has helped me to open this business and become more productive in the society. This skill have enabled me to give back to the community by empowering the youth and people with disability. In hairdressing and beauty, I am able to conserve the environment by recycling bottles to make decorative items. I also recycle the water from washing hair to clean the floor or flush the toilet.
We are embarking on the whole school sustainability project, aiming to reduce waste production by 30% through the reduce, reuse, and recycle scheme. A belief strongly in raising awareness of current waste production through green education. I encourage my students to be self-aware and reflect on their carbon footprint while teaching them the essential skills they need to participate in the project independently. It's also crucial for my students to lead in these environmental advocacy projects.
I contribute to peace and global citizenship through volunteering for causes that have a global impact and working in an incredible community that strongly contribute to a more integrated, sustainable, and peaceful future.
Social emotional learning has improved my ability to understand and regulate my emotions, empathize with team members, and foster positive social interaction. These skills are crucial for effective leadership, responsible decision making, and creating a collaborative and supportive work environment, contributing to both personal and organizational success.
Happy World Youth Skills Day.
Skills Day, and welcome back. We are ready for the second youth panel, and today's panelist is Florian and Lina, Sophie, and Faraz. And we're going to discuss a bit about Gen Z's lifestyle and values, and women in STEM, work-life balance, and diversity and inclusion. So we're going to be busy. First, I would like to ask you to kindly introduce yourselves.
Yes, I'll start. I'm Florian Zimmer. I'm from the BWI GmbH. I'm 25 years old. I'm a system engineer in ICT. And yeah, I'm a world skills champion, as you probably heard from some already in the video. Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Lina Pickard. I am a UNCCD land hero. 27 years old. So I'm one of the youth people in the UNCCD. We call it Youth Caucus. And I'm working in IT. I am a product manager, and I worked previously at change.org and supported change makers in really bringing their asks to politicians.
Yeah, hello, my name is Sophie Charlotte Koinecke. I am from Aachen, a really old town near the Dutch and Belgian border, so here in Germany on the German side. Yeah, and I'm doing my PhD in robotics, teaching students in most domains and also teaching pupils in STEM courses.
Well, yeah, I'm Faraz. I'm head of educational department in Indonesia Students Organization, and also I'm studying at the Environment, Water, and Infrastructure Management, and also working students in recycling companies.
Welcome, everyone. So let's dive into the first topic about Gen Z's lifestyle and interest. Sophie, I know that you are teaching mechanical and engineering students. What do you see? How would you define the lifestyle and interest of Gen Z?
That's really interesting. Good question. Lifestyle interests is I think most of the students are really hands-on, that they want to really learn. When they decided to do these courses, they wanted to learn what I tell them, what other teachers are telling them. And they tell me if it's bad or it's wrong. And they also tell me if it's not enough or if it's too much. So they get in contact with me, and that's actually what I pretty like. So Gen Z talks a lot, and that's actually what I appreciate. Yeah.
There's a big feedback culture, it sounds like. Yes, great. Faraz, you are also a member and head of education at the Indonesian Student Association. How would you define the lifestyle and interest of Gen Z?
Yeah, well, Gen Z now has changed because the awareness of the mental health is very high. And yeah, so that's why we have to always ask about the what's the life and in during the study, and also do you have any problem in the study. So yeah, and we can share anything about that. So that's why.
That's great. Thank you. And Florian, what are some of your interests, and what would you say is characteristic of Gen Z?
I would say for Gen Z, it's the online world that we live in now today. I think for us, we are the first generation that actually had phones. So basically, we could communicate with everyone over the entire world in seconds instead of days or weeks as it was before. So we are a lot more interconnected than we were before. And that's also why we are a lot different than a lot of other generations, in my opinion.
And Lina, you as well, we would like to hear from. You have been working with a lot of young change makers. What have you seen out there?
I have seen that a lot of young change makers are extremely skilled in using social media and in using the modern tools to really get their voices amplified. And I think this is very inspiring. And to see that so many young people are basically asking for change, and they are trying to change the system for a better world. And I think this is extremely inspiring.
Okay, sounds amazing. And I'm very curious, we know you've mentioned, several of you, that the young generation are very online. I'm curious if you see any parallels in terms of like the career paths that Gen Z choose and maybe their general interests or what they spend their free time on. It could be someone working in sustainability. Does that reflect in their after work hours?
I mean, for myself, I'm an IT person, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I actually got into IT because I was interested in my free time. I come actually from electrical engineering before, but I found my passion in something completely different. And that's because what we do now as a generation, just staying in touch, being on social media, that's how we find our passions nowadays. And also, it's also changed because many manual tasks and labors are automated nowadays. We have to adapt. And with that adaptation comes also new jobs that are made basically for our generation for us.
I can also reply to the fact of getting into jobs. And I have the feeling a lot of young people really start in volunteer positions. So they actually start without being paid for the work. And I see them often then getting the paid positions afterwards. So a lot of people actually start by volunteering in an organization that they love, that creates change. And then they move into a permanent position. So it's also definitely a movement that is there.
So very passion driven.
Yes, definitely.
Sophie, you have something you would like to add?
Yeah, actually, passion-driven is the right phrase. That people think about what's making life for me more worth to live. To actually think about it. So young people think about greens and also health and also work-life balance and also helping other people, being tolerant. We talked about that already, and then they start doing what they think would be best, like doing something in I don't know, helping other people, going doing tasks for other people. And then they actually start doing what they think is fun for them, doing fun stuff, and afterwards they find the passion in it, getting paid for it. And that's actually what's really special about Generation Z, starting with something fun, going on with something paid.
So they actually start building their skills for fun, and then it becomes a job.
Yeah, I think I would like to add to that, because often finding the passion itself is the difficult thing, especially for youth nowadays. We have so many options. And what you're saying also with trying out things, like that's the most important thing. You only find new passions if you try them out and see if there's something for you. You can't just say, okay, that sounds like fun, and it will be fun, because most of the times that's not the way. There will always be stuff you probably don't like about your passion, but just finding it itself is always the challenge.
And do you have any examples yourselves or any advice for someone who wants to try something new out? Sophie, I know that you really believe that it's okay to make mistakes and to fail. And yeah, can you share a bit about that?
So making mistakes is the most important thing. When we entered here the room, it was like, oh, when I say something wrong, what's happening? Everyone in the internet will see it. But actually, that's how we learn. And the internet will discuss about it if there is a mistake. And I know the first time I stood in front of these people, I know I told you, it's a lot of people, mechanical engineering students, so in the internet class are 2,000 students. in the real presence lecture are only 200, 300. It's still a lot of people, but I know the first time I stood there, I was like, oh my God, what's happening if I do a mistake now? And you will definitely make a mistake because you have to talk for 90 minutes and I have to do it 6 times in a semester. So, and the first time I made a mistake, one student was raising his hand and was like, that's wrong. We need to discuss it again. And we discussed it. I really discussed it with the student and asked, well, how would you do it differently? And then we talked about it. And yeah, in this case, I did a mistake and we were like, oh, you're right. We have to change that. In the next semester, somebody was again raising his hand, says, I think that might be wrong. And I was like, let's talk about it, but I'm sure this time I'm right. So I learned from that. What makes me more confident, and also the student is more confident because he was, well, actually not afraid to ask, to talk to me, but it's actually something I'm really proud about, that this generation Z is, well, actually not afraid to talk to me and tell me, okay, there might be something wrong. And also the second thing, and both of us learned from that experience. And also the other ones, 2,000 students, as I said, in the room were like, wow, we can talk to her. She's human. So, and that's actually what makes teaching for me so interesting, and working with Generation Z, with people which are only a few years younger than I myself. They're interested, they're passionate, and they are interested in learning. So I love that.
Yeah, well, I have a quite different experience from me. I always study with some groups, working group. So because we have to find what's the problem in our situation, and then we have to always having a discuss, something like that, and then we have to criticism what's the things I think it's not good for us, and what's happen in the future. So I mean, the working group, it's very, very important for us, and then we can find what's the goal for us for together. So that's mine.
I think to add to that, just being able to criticize something, or our ability to criticize something, is, I think, a lot more abundant nowadays. Maybe we're not still, in my opinion, not. We should be a lot more direct when we do that, because sometimes people are scared of actually criticizing people, or just saying, hey, you made a mistake. So that's one thing we should even work on even more, even though I think we are a lot more communicative than it was before.
Thank you for sharing. This is many good examples. I think also talking about passion and purpose, I would like for us to also touch upon the topic of work-life balance. I remember when I first graduated from university where I studied and jumped into my first job. I think work-life balance, as well as so many other things, were new, and it was definitely a journey, I would say, something I had lots to learn. What about for you? Do you have some examples of this yourselves? Maybe some advice you go about? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also a working student. So for me, the flexible time and flexible location is very important for me. And I think all the Gen Z, is very interesting about the flexible time and flexible job. And also the mental illness, the mental health is very important for us. And that's why we have to manage and resolve the problem. And we have to try to resolving the problem like a healing, where to go outside to the nature and something like that.
I would also love to elaborate on that. I think as a person who's passionate about something, it's sometimes very hard to think about your personal life too, because you really want to create change and you want to do something purposeful. And I face this very often myself. I think I'm not the best example because I work a full-time job, I volunteer, and I feel that very often that it's like too much that I'm doing, but at the same time, I love all of this. And I think that's very hard. And I appreciate that in our culture, it starts to become really a thing to think about work-life balance, also for the employers, that they start thinking, okay, you need to take some time off, take your PTO, your vacation. And I really, really appreciate that, because I think that's so important. And especially if you work in advocacy, that is extremely important, I think.
So how does it work with volunteer work in your free time? When you take time off work, your full-time job, do you also take time off volunteer work?
I don't. That's an issue. And for example, that I'm here today is a vacation day of my main work. So that is part of course, that I love to do this and that I love to do advocacy work. But I also think that employers have to really think about it and tell you, okay, you can take the day off. You don't have to take your vacation day as basically compensation for it.
For me, it's actually different. I'm very fortunate to have an employer who says, yeah, you're doing something good for the world. You can take your time off. I would love for your employer to realize that as well, that you're bringing the world forward with just your voice being here. Yeah, a lot more employers need to realize that it's not just about actually producing and creating revenue. It's a lot about, especially today, it's about a lot more.
Yeah, good point. And I think we've talked about this earlier about, you can gain soft skills, you can gain other skills, technical skills, and so on. But it's the whole you as a person that should be well connected. Sophie, you have something to add? No. All right. I think you call it a portfolio career, right? Or a patchwork career even, that you take a little bit from here and there, flex time, volunteer work. Yeah. All right. So let's jump to a new topic, women in STEM. Sophie, we're going to jump back to you. No? You don't. Working in robot engineering and as a medal winner in future skilled robot system integration. Would you like to share your experience as a woman in STEM, a bit about your journey?
Yeah, it's not always easy, to be honest. When I started here to study that, of course, everyone was, oh my God, there are so many men. Are you sure you want to do that? And for me personally, it was not actually a problem. It was a problem when people were like, okay, you will only get a job because you're a woman and employees have to hire you and stuff like that. That was the first time I thought about, no, I'm hired because I'm qualified. And that's WorldSkills actually proving. I've attended WorldSkills because I'm qualified. So, and I am qualified in this field because I had fun to do that. So, and I had fun programming robots. I had a goal which I wanted to reach. I'm still trying to reach it, and it works for me quite well. And that's actually what I want to tell young people. If you have a goal, if you have something what really makes you fun, as you have your job, and on the other hand, your task you're doing in your free time. So if you have something like that, then go for it, and then you will be really successful in that field.
I think that's very nice. Focus on the goal, not your gender. Florian, from your industry experience, do you have any observations on women in STEM?
Yeah, I think it's oftentimes it's made more difficult than it has to be honest. There are many examples. So, for example, just as you said, you're just a woman because you are just getting hired because you're a woman. I see that oftentimes as well, especially in a domain like IT, where, to be honest, we have 2 women in our entire department, and we're like 30 people. So it's very difficult for them, and we should definitely do something for them. Which we already do, but I don't know, to be honest, what else can be done, especially in fields like IT. We have to get more people into it to get rid of that stigma, and somehow get rid of this stigma of women in STEM.
What could be a solution? What could be a possible solution to attract more women? I know it's a very tricky question.
Yeah, I think we should already at a very early start, like in school, we should already start not saying, okay, here you have IT optional and the other one is, I don't know, theater, for example. That was, I think, for me, the choice. And then obviously a lot of girls will go to the theater because they think, yeah, IT, it's not for me, just because they're getting told that by the world. If we start there and say, no, you have to take IT mandatory, they will learn about their passions and they will actually find, oh, maybe it's actually interesting for me, and it's things that I like, it's logic, things like that will actually make them want to go and go into IT and be passionate about it.
I also think that stereotypes is a big issue across the entire IT sector. I come from the gaming industry. I actually started in the gaming industry and I'm currently still working there. I'm the only woman in a tech company currently where I'm working. And I think it is very important, as you said, to start early and to also try to get rid of the stereotypes. And there are still so many stereotypes, for example, about IT class. They're only the nerds. They will think they're only the people that are gaming all day. And that's not the case. You can do so much with IT. You can create your own website in the future. You can like do so many things. And I think that's not transported enough to the young people. Like the message isn't really transported to young girls that you can actually do something for your future as well.
I would also like say social media has a lot to do with it, because role models today are a lot more complicated and a lot more diverse than they were before. And especially parents, they can't control it, what their children are going to look at their phone. So it has to be also in the social media, there already has to be a point where all social media people know that this is not a stigma. So I don't know how we can do that. There's a very big challenge, but that's one of the problems that I see and I don't know how to solve.
So exposure and role models.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I think in respect of time, we just have to jump to the next topics, even though this was very interesting. The last topic we're going to cover is diversity and inclusion. And I am curious to hear how you experience the Generation C look at their future employers and what they look at in terms of diversity and inclusion.
Well, the diversity, I think it's very important, and also the company should to have a mindset as an open full mindset. It's very important for us, and also the international vibes. It's used to be create in there. For example, like in my company, we are very diverse. And also, this seems like my manager also as a woman, and I think it's more than 50% is also women. And yeah, if it's us, if we ask, is that possible, woman? Yeah, it's possible. If for all, yeah, it's possible. And also, I'm also international students in Germany, and yeah, so the important is we have to adapt what's the culture in our sites, in the sites on sites. So yeah, I think all role should have to adapt the culture and the attitude. That's very important for me.
I think what we see often today is companies that are showing the Pride flag during Pride Month and things like that, but they're not actually implementing anything other than just showing, hey, we're doing something about it. So I think there needs to be a lot more actually happening there. So I know it's difficult because, especially at my work, we have many different generations working with each other. We have very, very different worldviews. And I don't know how you can like make them prove that our culture is, I wouldn't say better, it's just different, and it's fine like it is. It's just a new generation, and we have to somehow solve this, especially for my work. I see that every day.
Yeah, I give a big +1 to diversity in employers. I would only go to a company that hires diverse staff. I care about this a lot. And I also care about remote opportunities, because I think that's still something that is not there in a lot of companies, especially here in Germany. The remote opportunities, and for people, for example, from the global south, to start working in those companies. And I think that really needs to be opened up from the company perspective, that people from the global south have it accessible to work for companies in the global north. And because the visa processes are so hard that many companies just don't want to support visa processes. So there needs to be a way in for people. And I think that's very important.
Absolutely, very good point. So if you were an employer yourself, what would you focus on?
I would never really focus on the person itself. I would focus on the personality. Are they compatible with my team? Do they work in a team well? Things like that. I wouldn't really be aware of it myself, to be honest, because I'm one of those generations that, to be honest, we don't care, but we have to care because it's still a problem.
Sophie, if you were an employer, what would you focus on when it comes to diversity and inclusion?
So I think I would say diversity as something like beneficial. That I use diversity and all the parts diversity offers to us as some goal that I want to reach for my company to make it more for the future stronger, get more ideas, innovation, and also if I have different ethics, if different people, different gender in my company, that have different ways to look on a problem and also different ways to work in a situation and different solution in the end, different kind of set of product in the end, and that's something that could be beneficial for me as a supplier, as a customer, and also as as an employee.
For sure.
Yeah, for example, I see that often with what I like very much, for example, again, Pride Month is something like Pride March, where you can actually go with your colleagues and things like that. Those are amazing, where you can actually show that you support this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I think in respect of time again, we have to wrap things up, but thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for listening and for your attention for this past hour.